All right, so today we're really going to dig into the law of attraction.
Okay.
And we're going to be diving deep with excerpts you sent over from Esther and Jerry Hicks' book, The Essential Law of Attraction Collection.
Yeah, this is a really good one.
It is good. And I think what's important is that, we're not just going to do like a basic surface level overview.
Right.
We're going to get into like how to actually apply these concepts into your life. Because I think we've all heard like attracts it like a million times.
Right.
But how many of us are actually like consciously using it and applying it to specific things?
Yeah, and that's what's so intriguing about this book is that it does go beyond just, think happy thoughts and good things will happen.
Right.
It really does delve into the why.
Right.
And it's like the difference between, intellectually knowing something and then actually like embody it and knowing it in your gut.
Yeah, and I know for me, like there are definitely times I find myself like spiraling and thinking about what I don't want.
Right.
Which just brings me more of what I don't want.
Of course.
So like how do we actually go about shifting those thought patterns?
Well, the book talks about moving from, creating by default.
Okay.
To intentional creation.
Oh, yeah.
And, most of us are creating by default. We're on autopilot. Our subconscious is rowing the show.
Yeah.
But imagine like becoming aware of those default settings.
Right.
And then consciously choosing thoughts that are in alignment with what you want.
Right.
It's like, upgrading from a rickety old bike to like a high-powered sports car.
Okay.
You just have so much more control over the direction.
Right, and where you end up.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it really is about that, like, taking control. Because I think sometimes we think, oh, it's just, it's happening to me.
Yeah.
I'm just a leaf blowing in the wind.
Yeah.
And we're really not.
No.
We are powerful creators.
We are.
And, this book talks a lot about source energy.
Yes.
And I think this is a term that I hear a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard for me to like wrap my brain around it.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean?
Well, you could think of it like a powerful river flowing that's kind of like source energy, this constant current of creative potential.
Right.
And when we're aligned with what we want, when we're feeling good, it's like we're flowing with the river, we're effortlessly moving towards.
Right.
But then when we're, stuck in those lower vibrations, feared out resentment, that's the resistance.
Yeah.
That's like trying to swim upstream.
Right.
You're just exhausting yourself and getting nowhere fast.
Right. So it's like we have this like internal GPS.
Yes.
That's kind of telling us like,
totally.
Are we going in the right direction? Are we going in the wrong direction?
Exactly.
And then on top of that, we have these flawed premises that the book talks about.
Oh, yes. These are big.
Which can really throw a wrench in things.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one that trips a lot of people up is this idea that other people know what's best for us.
Oh, yeah.
Even better than we know ourselves.
Right.
And we're taught to follow the rules.
Right.
Seek approval.
Please others.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And we kind of internalize this belief that, external validation is more important than trusting our own inner compass.
Oh, my gosh. It's so true.
Isn't it?
It's so easy to get caught up in what other people think.
Yes.
Especially those closest to us.
Yes.
And then we end up staying in jobs that make us miserable.
Right.
Because it's what our parents wanted us to do.
Exactly.
We're suppressing parts of who we really are.
Yes.
To fit in.
Because we're afraid of judgment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it seems like, this need for external validation can really like squash that.
It can.
Our own intuition.
It's like handing the steering wheel of your sports car to someone else and then wondering why you're not enjoying the ride.
Exactly. And why you're not going where you want to go.
Exactly.
You're just going where they're taking you.
Yeah.
But, we're talking about this in terms of like life purpose, but then there's also like the relationship piece, which the book delves into.
Of course.
Because let's face it, relationships
They're messy.
They're messy. They're complicated.
They are.
But how does like this whole manifesting a partner or even creating more fulfilling connections.
Sure.
How does that all tie into the law of attraction?
Well, it's the same principle as everything else.
Yeah.
You're going to attract what you're a vibrational match for.
Okay.
Think about it this way. Like if you're entering a room, would you rather enter radiating confidence and self-love?
Right.
Or insecurity and neediness.
Right.
It's the same.
Yeah, so you're not trying to like become someone different to attract someone.
Right.
You're attracting them based on who you already are.
Exactly. And embodying those qualities.
Right.
So
it was about like stepping into that version of yourself.
Yes.
And trusting that you'll attract someone who's on a similar wavelength.
Exactly. And the book also emphasizes that for those that are in relationships, it's important that both partners are prioritizing their own individual connection to source energy.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like not about relying on the other person to complete you.
Yes.
It's about two whole and complete individuals.
I love that.
Coming together and sharing their lives.
Yes.
But, relationships aren't always about just
Right.
finding the right person. It's also about like the day-to-day.
Yes.
How do you navigate the arguments and the
challenges?
The challenges, exactly.
Yeah.
So how does the book address that?
Well, it talks a lot about moving beyond blame and control.
Okay.
Instead of trying to force our partners to change or dwelling on past hurts, it encourages us to shift our focus to what we want to create moving forward.
Okay.
And it's consciously choosing, love over fear, appreciation over resentment,
Right.
and just recognizing that, whatever we focus on expands.
Right. So it's kind of like getting out of those negative feedback loops.
Totally.
Of like focusing on the negative.
Yeah.
And it's like, how can we nurture what we do want more of?
It's about really nurturing those positive aspects of the relationship and letting go of that need to control every little thing.
Because we can't.
Right.
We can only control ourselves.
Exactly. It's about surrendering to the flow of the relationship, trusting that when both partners are committed to their own growth and to the health of the connection, things have a way of working themselves out.
That's reassuring, especially when it comes to something like a relationship.
Absolutely.
Which can feel
It's so messy.
So messy and so out of our control.
Right.
But, speaking of things that sometimes feel out of our control, let's talk about work.
Okay.
Because I think for a lot of people,
Yeah.
it's not just about a paycheck.
No.
It's about finding meaning,
purpose,
joy,
Yes.
fulfillment in what we do.
Absolutely.
And how does the law of attraction play into something that feels as practical as a job?
That's a great question. And, the book challenges this idea that success has to be a struggle.
Oh, just
that we have to sacrifice, our happiness for a paycheck.
Right.
And it suggests that true fulfillment comes from aligning our work with our passions.
Okay.
Finding that sweet spot where we're using our unique talent.
And genuinely enjoying the process.
Okay, so does that mean we should all just quit our jobs and
Not necessarily. I was going to say, because I think sometimes people go to that extreme.
Right. And it's like, should we all just be living in vans down by the river?
Exactly.
Like following our bliss?
Right. It's not about being irresponsible or unrealistic.
Okay.
It's about shifting our mindset from, scarcity to abundance.
Right.
From believing we have to suffer to succeed to trusting that we can create a life we love without burning ourselves out.
Okay, so starting with those small things.
Yes.
Identifying what actually brings us joy.
Absolutely. And then gradually taking steps.
Yeah, and trusting that, when we are aligned with our purpose, that the abundance will follow.
Exactly.
It's not always easy to see that.
It's when we're in that scarcity mindset.
Right. And a big part of that too is really looking at, those limiting beliefs that we have around money.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the book suggests that a lot of us have these subconscious negative beliefs about money.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That can really sabotage our efforts to create financial abundance.
Yeah, money is the root of all evil.
Yes.
Rich people are greedy.
Exactly.
All of those things that we hear.
And we internalize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we even go about uncovering?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Reframing those beliefs.
It starts with awareness.
Okay.
It's really about paying attention to our thoughts.
Okay.
Our beliefs about money, becoming aware of the language we use.
Right.
Around money. And then identifying any patterns that might be holding us back.
Right. So when we say things like, I can't afford that money doesn't grow on trees.
Exactly.
Those are all things that we need to challenge.
Absolutely.
Reframe.
It's about consciously choosing thoughts and beliefs that support our desired financial reality.
Okay. This is all starting to really come together.
Yeah.
But then there's this one big question.
Okay.
Does that mean, if our thoughts create our reality?
Okay.
Does that mean that we are to blame?
Right.
When things go wrong?
Right.
If someone gets sick, does that mean that they somehow attracted that?
That's a really common misconception, and the book is very clear that's not what it's about.
Okay.
It's not about blaming ourselves for negative experiences.
Oop.
The law of attraction is always operating whether we're aware of it or not, and there are countless factors that contribute to our experience.
Okay, so we're not trying to live in a place of fear.
Exactly.
That if something bad happens,
right.
it's our fault for not, thinking positive enough.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. It's not about that at all.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we have this power and how can we use it to our advantage.
Okay, so then how do we make sense of, those tough times through this lens?
Right.
Like, what about things that, like accidents or illnesses or things that we can't control?
Right. And that's a really great question. And the book, it doesn't shy away from the complexities of life.
Okay.
Because it's not about denying the reality of, external circumstances.
Right.
But it's about how our internal world, our thoughts, our beliefs influence how we experience and respond to those circumstances.
So two people can experience the same event.
Absolutely.
But their perception of it can be totally different.
Completely different based on those underlying beliefs.
Yeah.
It's like if two people lose their job, one person might spiral into fear and despair.
Right.
Focusing on the lack and the insecurity, which again we talked about, just attracts more of the same.
Right.
The other person might, while acknowledging the challenge, they might see it as an opportunity for growth.
Right. It's about choosing how we think about it.
Exactly. And that's the key, right?
But that's easier said than done.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Especially when you're in it.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do we start to shift those thought patterns?
It's tough.
Especially when you're in the thick of it.
Yeah, you're in the throes of it.
Yeah.
One of the things that the book talks about is this concept called pivoting.
Okay.
And essentially what it is, it's the act of consciously redirecting our focus.
Okay.
From the unwanted to the wanted.
Okay.
So again, it's not about, denying reality or pretending everything's perfect. It's like, okay, I see this challenge, but I'm choosing to focus on the best possible outcome.
Okay. Can you give us an example?
Sure, absolutely. So let's say, we're talking about health.
Okay.
Let's say you are dealing with a health challenge.
Okay.
Instead of getting caught in that spiral of fear and worry, constantly thinking about it, you could pivot to focusing on your body's innate ability to heal.
Okay.
You could visualize yourself as healthy and vibrant, surround yourself with supportive people, focus on nourishing your body with healthy food.
Right.
Positive thoughts.
So really shifting that energy from a place of lack and fear to a place of
possibility.
Possibility, yeah.
Hope and possibility.
Okay.
So it's really about remembering that even in the midst of, maybe a challenging situation, we always have the power to choose our thoughts and influence our experience.
And I think this is where that vortex comes in.
Yes, the vortex.
Which I think can feel very mystical and out there.
It can.
So can we break down what that actually is?
Yeah, so think about it like this, a swirling vortex of pure positive energy. It's not necessarily like a physical place,
right?
But it's more a state of being.
Okay.
Where your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs are all in harmony.
Yeah.
With your desires and source energy.
So you're just in the flow.
Yes.
Everything's just clicking.
And the key to accessing the vortex is appreciation.
Appreciation.
It's appreciation. So if we can just be thankful for what we already have.
It's like turning into the right radio frequency.
Okay.
When you're on the right frequency, the signal comes in loud and clear.
Okay, I like that.
Right.
So how do we cultivate that?
Well, the book talks about a rampage of appreciation.
A rampage of appreciation.
A rampage of appreciation. And it's basically what it sounds like.
Okay.
Like really taking the time to acknowledge, to appreciate all the things in your life, big or small. Okay, so is this like a 5-minute thing?
Well,
is this an all-day thing?
The book encourages you to make it a daily practice.
Okay.
To really weave it into the fabric of your life. And it doesn't have to be a formal sit-down session.
Right.
Although that could be really helpful.
Okay.
But it's really about finding those moments throughout your day to pause.
All right.
And just appreciate.
Like that first cup of coffee.
Yes.
A beautiful day.
The sunshine.
A friend calling you.
Absolutely. All of those little things.
So really training your brain to look for those things.
Exactly. Because the more we practice it, the easier it becomes.
It's a muscle.
It is. It's exactly like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Yeah. But part of me is like, okay. So if I just walk around.
Right.
Appreciating everything.
Right.
Are my problems just going to magically disappear?
That's where, it's important to remember this is a process.
Okay.
It takes time and practice to really master these principles.
Okay.
It's not a magic wand.
So it's not like a cosmic vending machine where I put in my gratitude token.
Right.
And then outcomes.
Exactly.
My dream life.
Exactly. It's more like planting a garden.
Okay.
You have to cultivate the soil, you have to sow the seeds, you have to water them consistently.
See them?
And tend to them with care. Some plants will thrive, some might wither, and that's okay.
Okay. So it's a journey.
It's a journey. It's not a destination.
It's not about being perfect.
No.
It's about continuing to show up.
Absolutely. And being open to learning and growing along the way.
But I know, a lot of our listeners are probably thinking, okay, this is all great.
Right.
How does this apply to more practical matters?
Some everyday life.
Like, what about my career?
Yes.
What about money?
Finance.
What about parenting?
Yes.
So let's get into some more of those.
Let's do it.
Nitty-gritty details.
I'm ready when you are.
So we left off talking about how our thoughts create our reality.
Right.
But it doesn't mean we're to blame for bad things that happen to us.
Exactly.
So then how do we make sense of those really tough times?
Right.
Through the lens of the law of attraction.
Sure.
Because, what about things that we can't control?
Right.
Accidents, illnesses,
Right. It's not like we're manifesting those things.
Right.
And that's a really great question. And, the book addresses that. It talks about how it's not about, denying the reality of those external circumstances.
Right.
But it's more about how our internal world, so our thoughts and beliefs, influence how we experience and respond to those circumstances.
So two people can experience the same event.
Absolutely.
But their perception of it can be totally different.
Totally. And that goes back to, those underlying beliefs.
Right.
Think about it this way, two people both lose their jobs.
Okay.
One person, might spiral into fear and despair, focusing on that lack and insecurity. And we know that just attracts more of the same.
Of course.
The other person might acknowledge the challenge,
right,
but see it as an opportunity for growth.
It's all about how we're thinking about it.
Exactly.
But again, that's so much easier said than done.
It is. Oh, my God.
Especially when you're in it.
Especially when you're in the throes of it.
Yeah.
So easy to say, oh, yeah, you just got to think positive.
Yeah.
But when you're in it, it's hard.
So how do we start to shift those thought patterns?
Well, the book talks about, this concept called pivoting.
Okay.
And essentially what that means is it's the act of consciously redirecting your focus from what you don't want to what you do want.
Okay.
So it's not about denying reality or pretending everything's perfect. It's okay, I see this challenge, but I'm choosing to focus on, the best possible outcome.
Okay. So give me an example. What would that look like?
Okay, so let's say we're talking about health.
Okay.
And you're dealing with a health challenge. Okay.
So instead of getting caught up in, the fear and the worry,
right,
you could pivot to focusing on your body's innate ability to heal.
Okay.
You could visualize yourself as healthy and vibrant.
Right.
Surround yourself with supportive people.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on nourishing your body.
Okay.
With healthy food and positive thoughts.
So shifting your energy from that place of fear and lack to a place of possibility, hope.
Open possibility.
And this is where I think, the vortex comes in.
Yes.
Which I think can feel very mystical and out there.
It can.
So can we break down what exactly is the vortex?
Yeah, so you can almost think of it like a swirling vortex of pure positive energy.
Okay.
It's not necessarily like a physical place.
But it's more of a state of being.
Okay.
Where your thoughts, emotions, beliefs are all in perfect harmony with your desires.
Okay.
And source energy.
So you're just in the flow.
Exactly. You're in the flow.
Things are just clicking.
Yeah. And the key to accessing that vortex is appreciation.
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 So if we can just be thankful for what we already have.
It's tuning into the right radio frequency.
Okay.
When you're on the right frequency, the signal comes in loud and clear.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Right.
So how do we cultivate that sense of appreciation?
Well, the book talks about a rampage of appreciation.
A rampage of appreciation.
A rampage of appreciation.
So is that 5 minutes or is that an all-day thing?
It really encourages you to make it a daily practice, to really weave it into your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be this formal thing where, you sit down every day with a journal, although that could be helpful.
Okay.
But it's about finding those little moments throughout your day to pause and just appreciate.
Like that first cup of coffee.
Yes,
Or a
exactly.
beautiful day.
The sunshine.
A friend calling you.
Absolutely. All those little things.
So really training our brain
yes.
to look for those things.
Exactly. Because, the more we practice it, the easier it becomes.
It's like building a muscle.
It's exactly like building a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
But part of me is still like, okay, so if I just walk around appreciating everything,
right.
well, all my problems just like magically disappear.
And that's where, it's important to remember that this is a process.
Right.
It takes time and practice to master these principles.
Right.
It's not like a magic wand.
So it's not like a cosmic vending machine where I put in my gratitude token.
Exactly.
And out pops my perfect life.
It's more like planting a garden.
Okay.
You got to cultivate the soil, you got to plant the seeds, water them consistently, you got to tend to them.
So it's a journey.
It is a journey, not a destination.
Not about perfection. It's about showing up and doing the work.
Absolutely. Being open to learning and growing along the way.
But I think a lot of listeners are probably wondering like, okay, this is all great.
Right.
But what about the more like practical areas of my life?
Like, how do we apply this to everyday life?
My career, finances,
yes.
parenting.
Absolutely.
Let's get into some of that nitty-gritty.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
So we talked about how our thoughts create our reality.
Yes.
We talked about those flawed premises.
Right, they're sneaky little things.
And the vortex.
Yes, that powerful vortex.
But I'm curious, how does this all play into parenting?
Okay.
Because that's another area that could feel
it's huge.
Really out of our control.
Right. Like, how much control do we actually have over these little humans?
Yeah, because it's not always,
right.
sunshine and rainbows.
No, it's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
Learning as we go.
So how does the law of attraction fit into all of that?
Well, the book emphasizes allowing our children to be who they truly are.
Okay.
Rather than trying to mold them into mini versions of ourselves.
It's that saying like a flower doesn't try to be a different flower.
Oh, I love that.
It just blooms.
Yes.
But it's so easy to fall into those comparisons as parents.
Oh my gosh, yes, especially now with
Right.
social media and...
It's like everybody else's kids are perfect.
Right. Everybody else has it all figured out.
Right.
Except for us.
Exactly. But how do we balance that with wanting to guide them?
Yeah, you want to provide guidance.
As they're growing.
Right, because we can't just let them run wild.
Right.
But it's finding that balance.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, the book suggests shifting our focus from control to support.
Okay.
So it's about, creating a nurturing environment where our kids feel safe to explore, express themselves, make mistakes.
So it's less about dictating their path.
Yes.
And more about empowering them to find it.
Yes, exactly.
And we're just there to
provide that loving guidance.
Be that support system.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because it's about trusting that each child has this innate wisdom.
Okay.
This unique set of gifts that are just waiting to be uncovered.
So our job is not to give them the gifts.
No.
It's just to
help them uncover the ones.
Provide that environment.
Exactly.
Where they can be uncovered.
Oh, yes. I love that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I want to get practical.
Okay.
Because what does that actually look like?
Right.
Day to day.
Parenting is messy.
It's so messy.
We're sleep deprived.
Right.
We're juggling a million things. The kids are having meltdowns.
How do we maintain that?
Yes. How do we stay high vibe?
That high vibration.
Right.
When all of that's going on around us.
Well, it's important to remember that we're not going to be perfect.
Okay.
No parent is.
Okay.
Right? And I think a lot of times as parents, we put so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect.
We want to do it all.
Yes.
And we want to do it all perfectly.
Yes. And the reality is that's just not possible. It's not. And so it's about recognizing that, our energy matters. When we're coming from a place of love and patience and understanding, we're not only setting a good example, but we're also, creating a more harmonious vibration within the family.
So it's like that ripple effect.
Yes, exactly.
That we talked about.
Our energy ripples out.
Okay.
It impacts.
Especially on our kids.
Especially our children. They're like little sponges, right? They soak it all up.
So it's not just what we say.
No.
It's how we're being around them.
Yes. And, the book even talks about how we can use the law of attraction to manifest, specific outcomes for our kids.
Okay.
Not by controlling them, but by focusing on their highest good.
So instead of, my kid better get into Harvard.
Right. It's more about fostering their love for learning, their natural curiosity, and trusting that those qualities will lead them to where they need to be, whether it's Harvard or something else.
So it's about trusting.
Yes, trust.
That they're on the right path.
Yeah.
And that the universe has their back.
Exactly.
This has been so insightful. But
it's been fun.
As with all good things, we are out of time. Is there like one final golden nugget of wisdom?
Yeah, just remember that the law of attraction is always working.
Okay.
Whether you realize it or not. So the best thing you can do is to become aware of it.
Okay.
Become a conscious creator and really start aligning your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions with the life that you want to live.
It's not a destination, it's a journey.
It is a journey.
This has been such a great conversation.
This has been so fun.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the law of attraction.
Yes.
And remember, the power to create a life you love lies within you.
It does.
Until next time. Keep exploring, keep growing, and keep believing in those infinite possibilities that are out there.